Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
This is AHMED for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. We used to have a catch-up with Gareth Davies probably once every 2 or 3 weeks at the start of lockdown. I don't know why we haven't had you on for so long. How's life?
Well, I feel jilted by you. You know, you haven't been talking to me enough. How are you?
All good. I think we've just been both busy because we're getting back to some sort of normality.
Yeah, I've been in Milan. I've been in Paris working some shows with Bellator MMA and working the TV. It's been a busy time. It's nice to get back to action, Umar. You know, it's still a very weird time for us in the sport because, as there's no doubt we'll talk about, that there's a lot of fights being scheduled, but everybody's dying to get back in arenas. Now, in Paris on Saturday night, I did the in-cage interviews. We were only allowed a crowd for Bellator of 650, but it made such a difference. There was one guy, a Frenchman, Yves Londu, who climbed on top of the cage after he'd beaten Terry Brazier, did a massive backflip, and then breakdanced for 2 minutes. It was amazing. But I don't think he would have done that if there hadn't been a crowd there. You really felt the difference with people in the arena because it creates an atmosphere and it changes it for the fighters. And I think we're all desperate for that now because it's been such a long time. You know, you've been into fight camp, you've been into other events, and there's a hollowness to it, you know, like there is to perhaps going out and meeting people at the moment and being in normalcy, if you like. Yeah, it's very strange. And yet we've got all these big fights now being scheduled and a lot of movement in all the divisions, not least the heavyweight division.
Loads of big fights for the end of the year. But let's talk about a fight that we aren't going to have in Fury Wilder 3. And Bob Arum and Frank Warren both saying this fight's definitely off. Shelley Finkel saying the fight's still going to be on. What have you made of this situation where the trilogy's off, Gareth?
Well, I think the numbers don't add up for Fury and Wilder right now, and there isn't a way of doing it. I think it's framed by the fact that, you know, the gate in Las Vegas in February did close to $20 million US, 17 or 18 million US dollars. I mean, that is enormous for a start. So, you know, it could be that it could end up in court. It could end up in a legal case because Wilder has had his bluff called by Tyson Fury, by Bob Arum and by Frank Warren. But the top line really is that because of this, because Fury's going to come home and have a different fight, it moves it a much closer step towards AJ and Fury, the big one next year. I mean, I can genuinely see both guys. You can see how they've scheduled it December 5, December 12, and then we're ready for the big one. I think Fury and Joshua will go to the Middle East for the first fight. Certainly, if crowds aren't announced and they go into camp. I don't think the first one will be in the UK. I think it'll be in Saudi Arabia. I think it'll be another ready-made stadium. I think there'll be a massive site fee. And I think it'll guarantee both men, if it's a 50-50 split, as they're talking about, over 2 fights, it'll guarantee them a basic of 25 to 30 million each. And then it'll be enormous on pay-per-view. So I expect both men to earn around 50 million, maybe even more from this fight. And the overall to work between 150 and 200 million pounds, because there's a lot of parties involved in this. You look at all the broadcasters, all the promoters, the fighters themselves, and then I think we'll have a second fight back in the UK. So I reckon we're looking at Saudi in May, and I reckon we're looking at back in the UK in September, October. And I do think we'll have that, and I think by September, October, we may get 100,000 people then in Wembley Stadium. That's the way it looks like it's going to pan out. But both men have to win these fights in December. For Wilder's side, he's been very quiet during this period, as you know. I mean, he hasn't committed to much. He's let Shelley Finkel and his co-managers do all the talking, but there may be some repercussions to this, in my view, kind of legally from Al Heyman and all those guys, where they say Wilder had the right to a third fight, but they haven't clearly been able to agree this date or make it work.
Bob said the time frame in which they could activate that clause has gone, essentially. So effectively, that contract's expired. So what makes you say that there could be a legal matter still?
Well, there was a contract for an agreement to have a third fight. Now, that will come down to lawyer speak as to whether things were held in abeyance because of the COVID pandemic lockdown, because it wasn't possible, because travel wasn't possible. They'll have something to say about it. They will definitely not just accept it, because, he will want to fight Fury again. He will want to fight Joshua. So he's still got these big fights ahead of him, but who knows? They may have an agreement eventually behind closed doors or we may even hear about it, that Wilder gets to fight the winner of those two after two fights, but it's, look, this is the history of boxing, that cases often end up in court, because Shelley Finkel was saying, I think 5-6 days ago, the fight was still on, if you recall.
Yeah.
I think he went on Sky and said it was still on. So that, for me, indicates that they will have some argumentation about the fact that they do want a third fight at some point with Tyson Fury, or if not, they get to fight the winner of these two guys after they've had those two fights.
So don't rule out Wilder just yet.
No, don't rule it out. Don't rule it out altogether, no.
Gareth, let me ask you about the opponents being touted for Tyson on December 5th in London. He's going to box at the Royal Albert Hall. So we've got Oscar Rivas, Ajit Caballel, Otto Wallin, and the one that everyone wants, it seems, is Michael Hunter. That seems the fans are pushing for that one. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, Michael Hunter's 10 with the WBC, so he's in the top 10, so he deserves a shot at the title. I'd like to see it be Hunter. Again, I think he'll struggle with Fury's size and ring craftsmanship and his IQ. Rivas, I think, could be a dangerous opponent. I don't want to talk from the perspective that none of these guys have got a chance against him. Of course they have. It's the heavyweight division. We know what's happened in the past. Buster Douglas, Tokyo 1990, Mike Tyson upset the apple cart. But most people, most fans in the world will want Tyson Fury to come through that. Otto Wallin wants to fight him again, doesn't he? I mean, I can't see it being Wallin. I think Hunter is probably the guy. Ajagba, Ajit Caballel, yes, potentially. But I think Hunter is the standout there. He's a viable opponent. But I don't think he's in Fury's league. Let's be honest. Everyone watching this and everyone, once the fight is announced, when the fight takes place in December, they will want Fury to come through it, because no one wants these guys to get in the way of the big one. It really is the big one. And ditto with Kubrat Pulev and Anthony Joshua. But I think that if Anthony Joshua is ready for a fight and really wants to go out there and make a statement, I think once he hits Pulev in that fight, I think he'll crumble. I used to think that it would go 6, 7, 8 rounds, but I don't. I think it'll be 3 or 4 rounds. I think Joshua will get on him and get the job done. He's a brilliant finisher, as we know. And I think, hopefully, about midnight on December the 12th, we'll all be getting very excited and waiting for, all those final little things about ringside tickets, who walks out first, all those little bits that'll be ironed out and argued over, the creases ironed out for the big one. I reckon they'll both want to go into camp then, late January, maybe have a month off, late January, early February, after the December fight, and then probably looking at a May fight. As I say, I think a May fight, if crowds are allowed back, they may do it. But if we've still got the ups and downs, the curves of a pandemic, they're not going to risk selling 100,000 tickets to Wembley and have to call it off because there's suddenly a ban on crowds again. So I can see it going abroad for that first fight, even though none of us want that fight abroad. We do believe it should be here in the UK because it's a massive, massive fight. Probably the biggest fight that we'll ever see in our lifetimes, in terms of money. It's the heavyweights, it's all the belts, it's the undisputed. But do you know what? If it goes wrong, Umar, in terms of all the belts, as long as it's called the undisputed title for long enough, if one of the belts drops off just before it due to timing, no one's going to worry about it. We'll all know it's for the undisputed title.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gareth, let's move on to this weekend where we see arguably the biggest fight of the year, the most important fight of the year, Lomachenko Lopez. Before I get a breakdown of the fight from yourself, there's been a lot of discussion, especially during these times where everyone's going through economic crisis, really, about pay-per-view. So we know Lomachenko Lopez in the States is going to be on ESPN linear television. Bob Arum's been very, very vocal and angry towards UK broadcasters for not picking that up. And then he's slamming some of the pay-per-views being done here. Example, Usyk Chisora. What are your thoughts on the pay-per-view situation currently? For example, Dubois Joyce is not on pay-per-view. Usyk Chisora is. Should pay-per-views be disappearing in times like this?
Yeah, probably. But it all comes down to the mechanics of the finances of these events. If Eddie Hearn couldn't get Chisora and Usyk in the ring without a certain amount of money, and we know what Derek's like about money these days. He's a money weight fighter, isn't he? He's not about the title anymore. And let's be clear about this. If he does beat Usyk, he is in the frame for a world title fight again. I mean, I was there years ago, and he and David Haye fought at the press conference on that kind of spectacular night where bottles and he glassed me, and Haye fled from Munich, and but that night, Derek Chisora went through a very solid 12 rounds against Vitaly Klitschko. 10 years on, almost 10 years on, he could be fighting for a world title again, late in 2021 or if Tyson Fury defeats Anthony Joshua and holds all the belts, he could fight him in a trilogy fight for the world titles. I don't think he'll ever fight Anthony Joshua. They're too close. They're like brothers. He's like a big brother to Anthony Joshua. So I think that's ruled out. But, going back to the pay-per-view situation, Frank Warren's made a massive statement, I think, by making Dubois against Joyce a non-pay-per-view. They just want to get it on. The guys have obviously agreed to presumably a reduced purse because they would have got a share of the pay-per-views. It's brilliant that that's going ahead. But at the same time, you can understand Eddie Hearn doing what he's got to do. But you can also perhaps argue that Bob Arum has got the might of ESPN behind him. They're a huge channel. They're part of Disney. They're growing and growing. And he's making sacrifices with the Vasyl Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez fight by saying, look, it's going to be underwritten by ESPN. It's the biggest fight, really, in terms of standing in boxing since the pandemic lockdown, because it's for the undisputed and Ring Magazine lightweight title. So it all comes down to, look, if Bob Arum had to do a pay-per-view on it, he would have done a pay-per-view. He's clearly been underwritten by ESPN. And I think the agreement is he's put on so many fights now. It must be like, 16 events or something, or 10 events, since July. It's an extraordinary achievement in that bubble in Las Vegas. So, I think people would have paid for Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. I think they would have done numbers on pay-per-view on Sky or on BT Box Office. I'm very surprised that neither has come up with a deal. Maybe they were asking too much for it. But clearly, on Saturday night, we've all got to go searching for it on, Fight TV, isn't it?
Fight TV. Yeah.
Yeah, and we will. We'll go on there. We'll pay our whatever it is, our 15 quid or whatever, and you know that's what you, because if that's on pay-per-view on that, isn't it? So
£10. Yeah.
£10. Sorry, £10.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, 10 quid to see those two fight is not a big ask in my view.
Take my money.
Exactly. You know, it's, what is it? 3 coffees. You know, a couple of pints. You know, or for me, 2 shots of tequila. You know, but look, I'm very excited about the weekend, but the coverage of it so far has been underwhelming, which I'm very surprised by. Had we all been over there, it would have been made massive, I think, in this country. But listen, I'm not here to judge about pay-per-views. I'm just here to comment on the scenarios. I think they're all doing exactly what they need to be doing at the moment, and they have different policies and philosophies towards it. So Hearn's got his stance, Aram's got his stance. Aram doesn't have a deal with Sky, so you know, look, Bob's 89. He hammers Trump. He hammers Bolsonaro, the Brazilian president. He hammers whoever he wants to hammer. He's doing a great job. They're all doing a great job at the moment because they're keeping our sport running. And let's be honest, you know, it's like I was talking to the guys in Bellator when I was on tour. You know, I think 70 or 120 fighters, something like that, got to fight over 3 weeks, over 4 events in Europe. And they were all said they felt privileged and grateful to be fighting and to be paid. These are the big guys we're talking about who are used to earning the kind of extraordinary bucks that A-listers earn. And, you know, we're going to see them all. We're going to see all the big names by the end of the year. And they're clearly going to be taking reduced fees, you know, in treading water fights, certainly our heavyweights. So I think we should all feel grateful that this fight's on at the moment. And, you know, let's delve into our pockets a little bit and pay for the pay-per-views when they're available. You know, let's support the sport.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.